Hello everybody and welcome to the APUS History Station. Today's date is June 11th and you are listening to episode 1. Your hosts for today's show are Amanda Fennenbach, Ryan Novak, and Monica Shea. Welcome all to the first podcast of the APUS History Station. My name is Ryan Novak. I'm here joined by Amanda Fennenbach and Monica Shea. Our station's goal is to uncover the secrets behind the mysteries of our local neighborhood.
Today's episode focuses on a slow but significant event that happened in our school, Northern Highlands history, the disappearance of a large amount of elective classes. In the 1970s, Northern Highlands hosted a large variety of classes in almost every course, whether it was studying Russian literature for a core English class, to the history of math, to taking German as a second language. Northern Highlands had it. We had become interested in this topic after one day Monica told us about a discussion she had with Miss Barrett.
Alright, sure. So one day I was talking to Miss Barrett after school when we came upon the subject of classes. Apparently, the curriculum at Northern Highlands had once been much more extensive. A variety of classes for every subject was available. Optics, keeping books, geology, ancient history, you name it. Apparently, though, in the late 1980s, the classes had been cut down. Sooner or later, the classes dwindled to only around 10 different classes per subject.
Today's episode features the AP US History Station set out to interview people and find out the reason behind the disappearance of the large amount of classes. Was it from the large amount of scheduling problems, the loss of interest in the students, or was it simply the staff's decision to axe all the extra classes?
What we first did to find clues was go to the old curriculum guides in hopes of something. While they weren't at guidance like we had thought, we did find them. Standing in the main office, we scanned them for clues. The results were less than satisfactory. Only the curriculum guide from 1978 to 1979 was helpful. The entire set from then until 1993 was missing. Because of that, we could only speculate what was officially announced to the students. The next thing we did was contact teachers about this mystery. The 4 teachers we interviewed were Mr. Emra, Mr. Gilly, Miss Barrett, and Miss Mastropolo. We managed to catch Mr. Emra after school one day to interview him. Let's take a listen to the interview.
Across the nation, there were elective courses in English and there were semester courses. So you still had to take English, but you might, if you took creative writing. I can't recall ever being told we had to change. I think we decided ourselves sort of, we wanted more people to have the same experience, because this way they could graduate from here with. I just don't recall that there was no mandate, and in terms of English itself, we decided for whatever reason that to go to the full year idea, and to not have something like creative writing count as a core course. Acting wouldn't count as a core course, although it did one.
I heard that it was something that was more gradual. Like, I remember I was reading I think one of the 70s curriculum guides, late 70s, and it had a really extensive sort of large amount of different English classes. For example, one I remember was Russian literature.
Oh yeah, that was a terrific elective. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I can't fully remember why we made some of those changes. I don't think anybody said you must make these.
According to Mr. Emra, the reason for the scheduling change was purely made by the department, and was more of a gradual change than a sudden one like how Miss Barrett described. It sounds like Mr. Emra's reasoning is more that the staff decided on the change over a long period of time. Mr. Emra has a great deal of experience in the field, and he is also an important senior staff member in the English department. However, it was important to note that Mr. Emra's story is only one facet in this gem. Another reason for the change in the curriculum could have been due to students. In the next interview, Mr. Julie will highlight this. Let's take a listen.
Teacher, and ultimately left Northern Highlands, and I think he's teaching Latin right now in Ridgewood. So the German teacher, maybe he's teaching Latin and German in Ridgewood, but our German teacher became a Latin teacher. That didn't work out, so he wound up going to Ridgewood. I know in terms of the electives, I remember that we had more semester classes where we had had these shorter classes. They lasted one semester. They pretty much disappeared and started reappearing recently. I think we're starting to get some semester classes, right? Those had completely disappeared at one time. Receiving a letter every year saying that I may not have a job in September, but I survived. Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. But Northern Highlands was very faithful to me, very good to me. The programs, the programs you'd have to go by department. We've always had year programs. At the time, there was no language requirement to graduate high school. Even though it was considered an academic subject, you could graduate Northern Highlands, get a high school diploma, and never take any language. Not that it happened. Most people took a language because they wanted to get into college, so you needed it for college. But now there's a 2-year requirement. But afterwards, it's considered an elective.
So do you think that the reason why so many elective classes and the German and Russian had to be dropped was because of the declining enrollment?
I'm not sure it was the declining of enrollment as much as the declining of interest. And by the time I came in, I considered the difficult language at Northern Highlands, and I think that probably requirements. I mean, we see it now. For God, I mean, you know this better than I do. I just teach here. You guys go here. Trying to squeeze in a 4th year of a language sometimes is a problem because you have so many requirements that are there. You need 4 years of phys ed. You need how many years of math? How many
3
years of history? How many years of English? How many years of science? And then by the time you fill all of these out, you're there and you're saying, okay, so I have one elective.
From Mr. Jolie's story, it's more due to the students' influence that the amount of classes dropped. With a large amount of classes in the curriculum, as Mr. Emmer said, it doesn't seem like a surprise that the class enrollment would have played a large part in this. The drop in the student population around that time also would have contributed a large part to this event. In addition, the large amount of classes would have been a nightmare to schedule in order to please everyone. A majority of those classes were semester classes also, which means double the work getting everyone's schedule to work out. It seems like we're finally solving this mystery. Miss Barrett's interview, however, offers a whole different angle to the story. Let's take a listen.
So, what do you generally remember about how the schedule slowly changed?
It didn't seem slow to us. It seemed kind of sudden and hatchet-like when it first happened. It's like we had 38 classes and they said you had to bring it down to 15 or something like that. And then they said 10 or 12. And then it kind of crept back up again. So it seemed out of the blue when it happened.
Do you think... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say they said it was because they had too much trouble scheduling everyone with the half-year things.
Do you think student interest had anything to do with the decrease in the number of elective courses?
I wouldn't know that, like the electives across the board. I know that sometimes has something to do with it, but I know as far as when the English department used to have that many choices that we were told it was just because it was too difficult to schedule. So.
What do you remember of the students' reactions to the decrease in the amount of courses over the years?
It surprised me that there wasn't more of an outcry when it first happened. I don't know if they just thought, oh, well, I can't do anything about it, but I was kind of surprised that more people didn't come in and complain when they lost all those choices. So it must have been explained to them very well by the school or something, because there was some disappointment, I know, but not as much as I would have expected.
All right.
Ms. Barrett's interview perhaps gives an insight into what other incumbent teachers might have thought at the time of the schedule changes. Ms. Barrett's interview shows that the teachers at the time seemed to have little say in this. Perhaps the teachers didn't have much say in this decision as Mr. Emmer thought they did. Either way, it does seem like student participation in the classes did have a vital role in the removal of so many courses. The lack of student participation and scheduling conflicts may have been the most important part in leading to their classes to their graves. In the next and last interview is Miss Mastropolo, who, as a scheduling supervisor at the time, will provide us with the facts we need in order to solve this mystery once and for all.
I think it was the combination of full year courses, of semester courses that kids were taking. Most of them were taking the same class that seemed to be, let's say for example, another English class. They're taking Shakespeare and Brit Lit, or Shakespeare this period and English Lit that period. And it became kind of a scheduling nightmare because there weren't really enough semester courses. They were all within one or two different departments, so there weren't enough semester courses in a variety of departments, and that caused schedule conflicts. So since most of the kids were taking pretty much the same matchups, they decided to match up those courses and make them full year. So it just evened out the scheduling a little bit better. Most of the problems that we have with semester classes are there aren't enough of them. So there's nothing to back them up, and that creates conflicts with other.
And then, do you know why certain classes like the German and Russian or the Russian literature were dropped?
Lack of interest.
Okay.
There weren't enough students requesting those courses to warrant a teacher that could teach those courses. The German teacher, when I first started here, there was a German teacher, and his enrollment was declining. Whether there was a lack of interest in German or whether he was too demanding, I don't know. But his enrollment was declining, so there really weren't enough students to warrant keeping German as a course. Same thing with Russian. There weren't enough students requesting Russian.
Do you think any of it could have been money related that the classes were dropped?
Money related only in the sense that they couldn't afford to keep a German teacher on staff for, say, a full load of classes, 5 classes, which maybe amounted to 58 kids. So it just got to be cost prohibitive. They couldn't. Most teachers don't want to teach part-time. They want a full-time job. So if they can only have a job here teaching German or Russian as a part-time job, they get offered a full-time job someplace else, they're going to go someplace else. If we can't find a qualified teacher to teach those 2 or 3 classes, then we can't offer the course. And that's true with a lot of different subject areas. Is it why don't we have this or why don't we have that? Well, we could if we could find somebody who, number one, was qualified to teach it, certified to teach it, but also was willing to teach part-time.
Miss Mastropolo's interview confirms what we've been speculating all along, it seems. The lack of student interest and the ghastly scheduling nightmares that came out of all of those courses were what led them to the grave. Although the staff enjoyed giving all the opportunities, their inability to work around so many scheduling conflicts simply gave them no choice but to eliminate the courses. The amount of money and work and time that the extra 20 or so courses for every department just wasn't worth the effort. Although the teachers did want to encourage the students to expand their horizons, the resources needed for the courses to go through just weren't sufficient. Combined with the dwindling student interest in many of the classes and the drop in population during those years, the courses fell under the necessity of being dropped.
Wow, that was an interesting discovery.
Yeah, it looks like the number of courses are coming back, though.
That's great.
Indeed it is.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to episode 1 of the AP US History Station.